after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna. How many?
So many.
How many?
16?
16? Nice. Что? Просто трансцендентный любовник.
Can you check online if it's okay because I'm sitting in the chair? Because for devotees online,
जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सतश्री श्रीमान अभयाचार्य अरविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इसका विधि भांडाचार्य जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। देवी तुलसी महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। और All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. All glories to Shri Guru. Krishna Krishna Shrimati Bhakti Namaste. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashti. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8, entitled The Character of Bharat Maharaj. And today we shall be reading from text number 17, which is in a prose format, so I will just recite it on my own. Please listen carefully. Abhishemenasmin ashramo pavane shashpani charantam devaguptam drakshyami. Word by word translation. Api, it may be. Shemena, with fearlessness, because of the absence of tigers and other animals. Asmin, in this. Ashrama upavane, garden of the hermitage. Shashpani, charantam, walking and eating the soft grasses. Devaguptam, being protected by the demigods. Drakshyami, shall I see? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharya Narayana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation reads as follows. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal, protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden, eating soft grass? Purport. Maharaj Bharat thought that the animal was disappointed in his protection and had left him for the protection of a demigod. Regardless, he ardently desired to see the animal again within his ashrama, eating the soft grass and not fearing tigers and other animals. Maharaj Bharat could think only of the deer and how the animal could be protected from all kinds of inauspicious things. From the materialistic point of view, such kind thoughts may be very laudable, but from the spiritual point of view, the king was actually falling from his exalted spiritual position and unnecessarily becoming attached to an animal. Thus degrading himself, he would have to accept an animal body. Let us now recite the Mangalacharan together. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sanitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lata Shri Vishakha Vitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharane Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktirupa Swarupakam Bhaktyavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Namaha Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayadam Surato Pango Vandamate Pati Vatsarvasya Padam Bhuja Shri Radha Madhya Vrindavanya Madhu Shri Ratnagara Singhasanastu Shriman Radha Shri Govinda Deva Krishna Himanam Shriman Rasa Sarangi Vamsivata Tatasita Vashmi Sune Gopi Gopinatha Shri Astana Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vacham Bangam Nangarate Patam Vande Shri Guru So the verse and translation once again. Apishe menasmin ashramo pavane shashpani charantam deva guptam draksham. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden, eating soft grass? Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for being here. And before we begin our discussion today, I will humbly seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas so that I may be able to perform this devotional service primarily for my own purification. So yes, we are at a very interesting part of Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of Maharaj Bharat. And yes, we see that Bharat Maharaj, who was this Kshatriya royal king, royal descendant, gave up the kingdom to then eventually go into the forest and lead the life of knowledge and renunciation. But what happens? He gets entangled in the attachment of a deer. And now is a part where the deer has left him and he is lamenting. And I was thinking actually of speaking of how to realize actually these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam are meant for our own realization. So even the story of Maharaj Bharat, I was reflecting, what can I personally learn from it? And if you reflect on the story of Maharaj Bharat, a lot of our own reality and our own way of thinking and how the world works comes into picture. And in the recent past, I was listening to some lectures which I could actually then draw examples and inspiration from to connected with the learning of what we can learn from the story of Bharat Maharaj. And I would like to begin with the point, and of course this is a discussion. If you ever feel like raising your hand and sharing something, please feel free. Question we will keep towards the end. So I was reminded of this story, of this point made by Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, where he was making this point that the Shastra is actually living. So the Shastra is not just theory. The Shastra which we read regularly is not just some theory that we're supposed to read and it's someone else's story. Shastra is living, which means the Shastra is equally applicable at all times. The Shastra is very much relevant and Shastra is living, which means it is fully manifested in all time, place and circumstances. And of course, how we make it relevant to us is something we have to personally reflect on. And therefore, reading of Srimad Bhagavatam is equally necessary because we have to reflect each day on what we hear of how it is relevant to us. And I was listening to a lecture of His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj, and he was making this point of how, if you look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was actually narrated in a state of emergency, Parikshit Maharaj, he was about to be bitten by Takshaka the snake, and he had only a span of 7 days. And he realized Srimad Bhagavatam, and even before Takshaka came to bite Parikshit Maharaj, he was liberated. And also, if I speak too fast, you can please ask me to slow down. So even before the snake came to bite Parikshit Maharaj was liberated by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with full heart and soul. And then Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj was asking, so when will we get liberated? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday or Sunday? Which day? So we have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam with that intensity. And I thought of combining these 2 points very much to the core of our heart. How the Shastra is living. It is meant for us for daily reflection and meant for us to get very deeply absorbed in devotional service, and also that intensity. And it is said, Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj was making this point, that the more you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the more it should give you the desire to get disentangled from these bonds of material attachments. That should be the natural side effect. The more the heart should get cleansed. And also in this lecture, actually Canto 5, if you look at it, is full of realizations of how to get free from attachments. The different chapters that will come in Canto 5 and different stories. How to get really liberated from attachment. That is what Canto 5 is meant for. And Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj in his lecture, he was speaking actually of the story of King Daksha, Sati and Lord Shiva. And he was making this point of that, Dakshayani, which is Sati, because she was coming from the lineage of Daksha, she thought, I still have to maintain some of these things from my lineage, I'm Dakshayani. That's why in Srimad Bhagavatam she's described as Dakshayani, which means she's a daughter of Daksha. So because she came from that lineage, she carried some of that Kshatriya spirit, and she was dressed so nicely, and she had a little bit of pride in being the daughter of Daksha. And she was looking at all her relatives who were so nicely dressed. And then she was telling Lord Shiva that I am Yoshita, I am Atatvavit, that I don't know anything and I have these material attachments, but please let me go. I know I should not have these attachments, but please let me go. So Maharaj was making this point that sometimes as devotees, we also know that some attachments, they are just so unnecessary for us. But we still think that still, it's nice to purify it. Still, let's go through it. Isn't it like, if you reflect on, at least I think of it myself, that if I reflect on it, there are so many attachments and attractions I have which I know are impediments on the path of bhakti, which I know are so unnecessary, but I think but still, I'm still conditioned. So I give myself that leeway to become conditioned. So Maharaj was saying it is so important as devotees to do away with this tendency. It's so important. And then I was thinking, otherwise we actually end up like Bharat Maharaj. And he's a very elevated devotee. He was on the stage of almost Bhava, but he's falling down. We're actually seeing gradually a fall down of a very saintly personality. And we are not that saintly, but we can still learn actually how this step by step it happens. And when I was reading, the previous verses, and now especially for me as a young person, I can totally see this, this attraction that Bharat Maharaj has towards the deer. As a young female, I have that kind of attraction to a young male, So if you really see attachment, of course when you're young you have certain kinds of attachments. When you enter family life you have different kinds of attachments. So, but then the story of Bharat Maharaj, especially for the younger generation, we can see, the deer, when it was under, first I think we have to really realize, and I do this comparison from Bhakti Maharaj's lecture, that Sati was Dakshayani. She was holding back these traits of being the daughter of Daksha, of a Kshatriya and things like that. And Bharat Maharaj is also holding back his traits of being a Kshatriya. Because when he saw the deer, he wanted to protect, of course, Radhana Maharaj in one of his lectures was making this point, that Krishna made these little entities so cute. He said even in his heart, when he sees a baby, he wants to do something like sweet to the baby. So naturally, anything small and anything tender, young, which needs protection, invokes a certain kind of feeling from our heart. That's very natural. And Krishna made it that way, so that the dependents are protected. That's very important. And of course, we know there are 5 kind of entities that should always be protected. What are they? Women, children, old, the old,
Brahmanas,
cows and brahmanas. So 5 kind of entities who should always be protected. So naturally, there is this tendency of protection that we should have, as human beings or in any species of life. But what happens is, in Bharat Maharaj's story, gradually, he gave up this designation of being a Kshatriya. He gave up this designation of being a king or being a protector, but again he falls back into it. He again falls back into this need of being a protector. He here thinks, oh, I am the protector and I have to protect the deer. But like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke or Rakhe Krishna Mare Ke. So at the end of the day, this feeling that I have that I can protect it's deep rooted in the feeling of being a controller, in the feeling of being the proprietor, the lord, and therefore I think I can protect. This is the Ishvara Bhava. And of course it is necessary, especially when he was in the role of a king, and also in the role, and we also see in the Vedic society, men naturally have this tendency of protection. It is very natural because that's how the society works. That's how being a male, being a Kshatriya, being a king, Bharat Maharaj could conduct his duties because he had to have some Ishvara Bhava to be able to protect the progeny. But then now when he gave up this and moved to the forest, he still hasn't fully given up the Ishvara Bhava. And therefore, again the whole cycle starts again. He falls into this whole web of attachment. And what happens is, it's like sometimes we see that there is a worm or an insect which is falling into the spider's web, and the insect, what it does, that it tries to move around. And in trying to move around, what happens?
It gets caught up even more.
Yeah, it gets more and more entangled. So sometimes we may take on the practice of renunciation of bhakti, thinking, oh, I'm supposed to renounce. But what is naturally happening is we are getting more and more entangled if we are not properly purified. So what is the really crux of the argument being made here? Because Srimad Bhagavatam is such a rich literature, you have to sometimes read in between the lines. And if you read in between the lines of the story of Maharaj Bharat, it just says that if you externally take up the process of renunciation and knowledge without internally actually giving up the Ishvara Bhava, the tendency to become attached will still remain very strongly there. And we see very closely actually, if you study the way, when I read this translation, alas, so much, deliberation, lamentation. Shall I again see this animal protected by the Lord? Shall I again see this? So there's so much hankering, such deep hankering. And there must be so much pain in the heart of Bharat Maharaj. If you really associate with the character of Maharaj Bharat, there is so much lamentation, so much distress. He's really hankering, it's like a fish out of water, really hankering. Alas, will it be possible? And sometimes I think that, a boy and a girl, when they develop strong attachment and they enter into a relationship, whether it's just a conjugal relationship or whether it culminates in marriage, regardless, this bond of attraction is also so strong that your emotions are actually dependent on how your lover behaves with you. For both men and women, Oh, he didn't smile at me, did I do something? Or, oh, she said this, but she's acting very cold, did I do something? So, and if you compare it, Bharat Maharaj's emotions are also so dependent on the deer. If the deer is acting in a certain way, he's happy. If the deer is acting in a certain way, he's sad. And if you closely compare it, it's actually, especially for the younger generation, Bharat Maharaj's story actually is a mirror, for us. When there is such strong attachment, such strong lust, and if not lust, but there is this need, to be loved, to belong to somebody. Especially when you are young, this need is there. But then Bharat Maharaj's story is such an eye-opener that if you read through his story and if you just think, like even now Bharat Maharaj in the previous verse, he said, alas, the deer is now helpless and I am now very unfortunate. My mind is like a cunning hunter. And what he's doing, he is trying to view the situation through how he sees. Prabhupada makes this point that sometimes we see the world and we see things according to our own vision. Like if you wear red glasses, you see everything red. So similarly, Bharat Maharaj also, because he's so attached to the deer, he sees everything with the lens of his attachment to the deer, and how everything seems so dull and unfortunate. And especially when you're young and you're in love and everything is so bright and beautiful, and when you're abandoned by your lover, everything becomes so morose, so dark, so grey. Like now outside, it looks very grey. So even if it's the brightest of days, it becomes very grey. And this is exactly how Bharat Maharaj describes. Bharat Maharaj was head over heels. He was totally in love with this deer. And when this deer is abandoning him, because maybe the deer has some other attraction. Maybe the deer grew up and went somewhere. But Bharat Maharaj's whole life is now circulating around the deer. And what has happened, Bharat Maharaj has forgotten Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigrahanadi Radhi Govinda Sarva Kharana Kharana. He has forgotten that Parama Ishvara is Krishna. He's forgotten that the object of love is actually Krishna. And therefore in chapter 7, I think it's verse 19 of the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavamam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that Vasudev, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Sarvamiti, the supreme object of everything, the supreme object of my worship, the supreme object of my love, the supreme object of my existence. Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavamam Prapadyate. After many, many births, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such a person is very rare who realizes that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is my everything. Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharaj. Jai Shri Shri Gaur Prabhupada ki. So such a person, Sir Mahatma Sudurlabha, a Mahatma, such a person who realizes that Vasudeva, Sri Krishna is my everything, is my Sarvam Bonam. Such a person is very rare. And we see Bharat Maharaj started on this journey, to set out, to realize that, to renounce everything, to realize that Vasudeva Sarvamiti. But he didn't properly realize this, so he's fallen into this attachment. And this is how rare actually it is to realize that Krishna is a Samambona. We know that there are 10 subjects, 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is the 10th topic, the final topic of Srimad Bhagavatam? It is that Sri Krishna is a Samambona. So that is the gist and the crux of Srimad Bhagavatam. And unless we realize that Krishna is my everything, we cannot come to a platform of even beginning to renounce. So Krishna is Param Ishvara, because here we see Bharat Maharaj still has this Ishvara tendency. To realize Krishna is Parama Ishvara, that is one. And second is also to realize that everything that I have, everything that I am, the Samam Bonam is Krishna. And I would also like to bring two analogies actually that my spiritual master gave me in his last instructions, which is very valuable, and I think it's relevant for meditation all throughout our life. Which is that one is, of course, we see that Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes, I think, 3 stages of consciousness. One is deep sleep, where you are really not conscious at all of what's going around, of spiritual awakening. The second is dream state, where you are partially conscious, but you are also partially not aware of the full realizations in spiritual life. And third is wakeful state. I think there are 3 stages, or 4. 3, I don't remember, maybe 4. So the last is wakeful state, where you are awakened to the fact that you are the spirit, you are not the body, and your real identity is being Jivya Swarupa Krishna Nitya Das, that you are Krishna's eternal servant. So these are the 3 stages of consciousness. So we can always evaluate where we stand in these 3 stages of consciousness. And one analogy that my Guru Maharaj gave is His Bhakti Maharaj, that we look for happiness, and we look for belonging, we look for love, we look for, essentially what Bharat Maharaj is doing, he's trying to satisfy his need of being the Lord, of loving somebody, of protecting somebody. And we also try to be, we also have this Ishvara tendency, we want to do this, And Srila Prabhupada makes this point that this Ishvara tendency, it actually is deep-rooted in this need of doing service. And if you don't have anybody, people get a dog or a cat to do this, to exercise this. And one beautiful analogy is that, all of this that we do in life is actually to be happy. Why do we want to love and be loved? Because we want to be happy. So the goal of our life, the goal of our existence is in that way to become happy. But foolishly we think that by doing the different things we can become happy, but unless we connect ourselves to the source of happiness, we cannot become happy. And the example is that imagine there is a electrical wire, and if you touch it, what happens?
You get electrified.
Yeah, you get electrified, you get shock, right? So there is a source of happiness, and as soon as you get in touch with the source of happiness, what will happen? You will become happy. There is a source of love. As soon as you get in touch with the source of love, what will happen? Love will invoke in your heart, you will become loving, you will feel loved. So Krishna actually is the source of all love. He's the source of all happiness. And as soon, just imagine, as soon as you touch electricity, you get electrified. Similarly, as soon as we get in touch with the source of love, the source of our happiness, we will become happy and we will become pacified. We will not have this search for happiness anymore. And of course, that is easier said than done. But our entire life actually is about this. And although it may be very difficult to turn to Krishna, especially when you're young, to realize that Krishna is the source of my happiness. Vasudeva Sarvam, that Krishna is the supreme most, he's the topmost, he's the source of everything. It may be so difficult to realize it when you are young, because you are in this cloud nine where everything is so lovely and you feel like you need a wife, you feel like you need a husband, you need a lover, you feel like you need children, feel like you need a job, you feel like you need a house to become happy. But Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. But this whole life is to become awake. I'm not giving a brahmachari class saying that, you should not. Yes, some things are, if you enter into the life of celibacy and at some point you come to a realization that maybe I'm not capable of doing it for a lifetime. So we don't artificially try. But at the same time, even if you enter into Grihastha ashram, even if you enter into a life of employment outside, even if you enter into a life of, materially prospering to maintain your family, always remember Vasudevam Sarvamiti. That at the end of the day, all of this I'm doing is to realize that none of this is important. So all of this, it's like, we can hold the nose this way, or we can hold the nose the longer way. And sometimes holding the nose this way, we can't get ourselves to do it, so we have to hold the nose the longer way. So therefore, sometimes to understand that we need nothing but Krishna, which is holding the nose directly like this, can be difficult. We should try to hold, because this is the more intelligent thing to do. But sometimes our intelligence is not fully awakened, and therefore we have to hold the nose the longer way. But you have to hold the nose. That's the point. That you have to come to the realization that Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that the Lord is the Sanam Bonam, the Lord is it is said, Tvameva Mata Chutpita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhucha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Sarva Mama Deva Deva. It is said, you are my father, you are my mother, Tvameva Mata Chutpita Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva. So you are my family, you are my knowledge, you are my everything. And you are my Lord. And that is actually the life of a devotee, to realize everything that I have is actually meant for Krishna. And that cannot come from a state of regulation or forcing yourself. That has to come from a realization of love. And unless we invoke that love, we have to purify ourselves, so we go through different stages of life. But never to lose the fact, wherever we may be in life, whichever ashram we may be, whichever situation of life we may be, whether we are studying, whether we are maintaining children, wherever. Especially for me, as a young woman, when I read this attachment of Bharat Maharaj to the deer, it's so scary, because women naturally have a very strong attachment to the children, and it has to be there to take care of children. But I was just thinking, like such strong attachment, and I forgot Krishna. So, but these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, they're not just stories, but these are reminders to us to never lose fact. Because, there are three kinds of ways of learning. Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman, right? We know about that? So what is Pratyaksha Praman?
Our experience.
Through experiential knowledge, which is, you could say, third class actually. Then the second is Anuman Praman. What is that?
Analogy.
Yeah, the analogy is from speculation, from guessing. So you basically use your intelligence to understand. That is the second class way of learning. And the first class way of learning is Shabda Praman. What is that?
Oral perception.
Hidden from realized light.
Yes, so Shabda, this is Shabda, Srimad Bhagavatam is Shabda. So the first class, most intelligent way, so we should try to be most intelligent. That, of course, in the material world, people enter into Pratyaksha Praman, They go through it and they are exhausted, then they think, oh, now I have to take sannyas. But in our tradition, we learn from not doing, but we learn from the scriptures. So please meditate on the story of Maharaj Bharat and see personally, where am I in my life in the situation of Maharaj Bharat? We are all Bharat Maharajas in our own way. So it's a nice, any time you read something in Srimad Bhagavatam, reflect that who is my dear, what is my dear, and how am I in the role of Maharaj Bharat. I mean, he's extraordinary, no doubt, but we can still use this example for our own benefit. So, and I would like to end with actually a small story, very funny, from Srila Prabhupada. When I heard this as a child, I was like, oh, this is so mean. But Prabhupada gives this story that once there was a he bird and there was a she bird. And they had little chicks, little whatever. So they're babies. And once what happened was these babies were out and about, and there was a hunter, and he trapped them. And seeing and of course the children started to cry in pain and in anxiety or out of fright. And then the mother bird saw, and she ran to rescue. And how can a bird fight through, or over the net? So she also got caught up in the net. And then the father bird saw it, and then he saw that the mother bird went, and she also got entangled. Then he said, okay, let me go take sannyas. So the whole point is that, that's the intelligent thing to do. It's a very funny story. But I also, when I heard it as a child, I was like, oh, Prabhupada, that's so mean. But it is to basically say that use your intelligence, Because in the world outside, people are chewing the chewed. Yes, Canto 7, Prahlad Maharaj says, chewing the chewed. Don't chew the chewed. Even if you have to chew, this comes with the realization that, okay, at some point I have to spit it out, So in the material world, everyone is chewing the chewed, going through the same things again and again. Same, taking birth, going through school, teenage puberty, which is so painful. Then getting married, going through this whole, with children, etc. And okay, at some point you realize, okay, I'm not capable enough and I have to do few things in life, but don't keep chewing the chewed. At some point spit it out and come to the realization, Vasudevam Sarvamati. Why? Because Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. And also in chapter 7, text 3, it said Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashidyati Siddha Yatataam Api Siddhanam Kashin Mamiti Tatvataha. Tatvataha, such a person who knows this kind of knowledge is very, very rare, out of thousands of people. And that's why Srila Prabhupada always said that devotional service is very rare. And now when we have this gift from Srila Prabhupada to take to this path of devotional service, let us not be third-class intelligence or second-class intelligent. Let us be first-class intelligent and hear from Srimad Bhagavatam and lead life in a very conscious and aware way. Go through life wherever you have to, sometimes it's necessary, but be very alert. And that's the story of Bharat Maharaj, that somehow he lost this consciousness, awareness of Krishna. And that is something we have to learn to never lose. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki jai. We don't really have much time, but if someone has to just share one comment or one question. Two.
Which Bill says?
Not a bit.
the Shastras living. That was a very nice point. Thank you for the lecture, by the way. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you extract the concepts and principles from the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam?
Yeah, very, very good point. Yes, Shastra is living. Keshav Maharaj said this. Maybe if you on YouTube, if you type it, maybe it comes up. But he said it a couple of times in many of his lectures. So basically, what happens is, for example, the story of Puranjana. When we hear the story of Puranjana, we don't really just think, oh, it's a story of Puranjana. It happened, and there was a narration. We relate to it. It's my story, and it's already applicable to me now, in my life. And Srimad Bhagavatam, that is why it's living, that it's not just theory, it is fully revealed knowledge which is applicable to us in every day of our life, every moment of our life. And how is it possible to extract? And of course, we do know the different kinds of listeners in Srimad Bhagavatam. One is the Chataka bird who drinks only from the cloud, and there is a fish. So basically, you can go through, you can look it up, the different kind of listeners and what quality they have. So when we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, we should listen to it with a certain kind of attention. And actually there are 3 points. One is, like also Bhaktivedanta Maharaj was making a point, that when you listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a test of your humility. Like when you listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, you should listen with such a humble heart. Not that, oh, I know this person is a young devotee, what will he or she tell me? Or, I know this already, oh, this I've heard before. No. Whenever we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear with such humility as if we are hearing for the first time. And that will reveal Srimad Bhagavatam to us. So that's point 1. Second is, when we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, always listen, like the Bhagavad Gita says, the introspective Brahman, right? Introspection, reflection is very important. That when we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, we listen with rapt attention and with reflection of how this is relevant to me in my life, in my devotional service. And third is, you need teachers and the association of devotees to properly understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So even Parikshit Maharaj, he was an elevated soul. He could have definitely also realized Srimad Bhagavatam on his own, but he needed Sukadev Goswami. And we also know the sages of Naimisharanya, they discussed Bhagavatam in an association of devotees. So really, to be able to extract the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, you need to listen from a bona fide teacher. Of course, we have the very significant privilege of listening from Srila Prabhupada, and you need to listen to it in the association of devotees. So those were some thoughts. Are they helpful?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jamuna, you had something?
Thank you so much for your wonderful lecture, first of all. When I think of this story of Bharat Maharaj, sometimes I'm thinking like, yeah, he had everything, like he had this whole kingdom, he had a wonderful family, and he could detach of this, and then he had this attachment for deer. And then you were also mentioning, yeah, of course, if we have still the attachment to some like Ishvara Bhava said, in Bharat's case, and then we give up externally, then we fall prey again to this attachment. So I was wondering if it's actually it was actually a good decision of him to renounce in that way. But of course, if he wouldn't have renounced and he still had these attachments, then he had it to other things. So what should he have done, and what should we learn actually from this?
Very nice question, thank you. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, I always say that there is a push and a pull effect. Push effect is that, these stories of Puranjana, Bharat Maharaj, also Prachina Bali, and all of these stories, they push us out of our comfort zone. They wake us up. This strong attachment, they push us. And the pulling effect is the beauty of Krishna. If you read in Canto 10 how Krishna is wearing this yellow garment, he has dark curly hair, and he has these arched eyebrows. And Rupa Goswami says, no, Sanatana Goswami in his Shri Krishna, it's a bhajan where he said, may the bee of my mind be attracted to the honey of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, and also Rupa Goswami says that once who sees the arched eyebrows of Krishna or the beautiful face, he will never be attracted to something else. So Srimad Bhagavatam basically has this push and the pull effect, which is there. So we have to realize that also one important point is that nothing in the life of a devotee happens without the consent of the Lord. So Bharat Maharaj's story had to happen this way for us to learn our lesson. These exalted personalities, they are carrying out their life in a certain way and we are supposed to learn from it. And then when they turn their life around, that is their greatness. But we are learning from it. So to address your question, that Bharat Maharaj had everything and then he gave up. But sometimes we have nothing but still it is difficult to give up. That's another point I was thinking of. That we, compared to all these personalities, we have nothing but still our attachment is so strong. But that is the nature of attachment. Whether you have little or you have more, it keeps you bound. And then the second part of the question, or your comment and question, was how he gave up. So sometimes we speak of early renunciation and when is the right time to renounce actually. And that's why you need the guidance of a teacher. Because sometimes we can feel that we are there and we may not be there in spiritual life. So you need to have personalities in your life. And I remember Akandari Prabhu once, he gave me a very nice advice because I had to make some important decision and I was asking him that, how do you make important decisions? And he told me that whenever you want to make important decisions, ask 3 brahmanas. Always ask 3 brahmanas. So I try to do that as much as possible. But especially, so the importance of this kind of comment is that to make important decisions in our life, like of renunciation or of, it could be even like either giving up family life or entering into family life, both. You should always consult teachers, always consult seniors. So otherwise there can be this danger of early or immature renunciation. And to be honest, it is sad, but also in our movement we have seen, improper renunciation, early renunciation, and there was fall down. So it's a fact. We can't hide that reality of our ISKCON movement. It is there. So, and these also happen because Krishna desires that we learn from them. So never try to immaturely renounce. And then the question will be, how do I know when I'm ready? You need a teacher to tell you. Most often than not, you cannot tell if you're ready. So you need mentors and teachers who guide you and they can tell you. And that's why it is so important as practicing devotees to be open to feedback. And especially for the younger generation, like sometimes seniors say, that they are so close to feedback. You can't tell them. Imagine if you become so hard that your seniors cannot tell you if you're going wrong. Then your life is finished, So as devotees, we should always be so open. Because actually, Radhika Maharaj was making a point that real renunciation comes from real humility. And when you are humble, you are submissive. When you are humble, you are open to listening to your seniors or actually anybody and everybody. So, and sometimes it can be difficult because, feedback can come in all ways and forms. And sometimes I can understand you want to draw your boundaries and you can't allow everybody and anybody to give you feedback. That's very okay, understandable. But never be in such a state that your peers and your seniors cannot give you feedback. And therefore in spiritual life, it's a process where you receive feedback and you grow like that. So when we are ready for renunciation or not has to be also consulted and advised by the seniors. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Vancha.
Devasri, Radhika.
Always remember Vasudeva Sarvam.
Vasudeva Sarvam.
So, yes. I would have chosen